Hi, everybody. Yeah, thank you for being patient with me. The house is pretty much done. We have an electrical issue we have to sort out. and, yeah, but it's ready to show. So, I'm taking today off, kind of relaxing. But I've been working on my book, and I got to thinking, it's been a long time since I've talked about the actual, me actually dying. So I thought I would talk about a little bit of that a little bit because really I haven't gone into a lot of detail about it, and I thought people might be interested. So, whenever I died, I was very sick, and I knew I was really sick that night, and I told Stephanie, uh, if I made it through the night, that I would go to the hospital the next day, and that if I didn't make it through the night, to give the doctor the information on what was wrong with me. And of course, they found me next to the bed with my eyes rolled up in my head, and yeah, I don't remember any of that at all. I don't remember anything about the ride to the emergency room. I do know that I died in the emergency room because when I died and I floated, I don't remember actually coming out of my body, but I do remember floating over my body, and there was no pain at all. There was a lot of curiosity. I wasn't afraid at all. Very comfortable with floating above my body and looking down at it. I didn't find that unnerving in any way. It seemed very normal at the time. And I looked down on my body like I was on the ceiling looking down, and I watched everything that went on, and I did that for a while because I am a nurse, so I wanted to see what they were doing and how they were doing it, and how much I could really see, and what the kind of things that they did, which I don't think I've ever put this in a video, but not only could I see and hear them talk back and forth, but I knew what they were thinking as well. I don't think I've ever told anybody that before, but yeah, I could hear them thinking. I knew about their lives. I knew about their names, their children's names, all of that. I knew all of that at that point. But I didn't find it strange at all. But the next thing that really happened the most was that I could see, feel, know ghosts, what you would classically think of as ghosts. So I got to thinking about that a little bit, and the whole time-space thing. And at this point, I had not realized that I was outside of time-space while I was watching this. But I do remember seeing and feeling what you would consider ghosts everywhere, and they really are just everywhere. And I remember having telepathic conversations with some of them, and that none of this was odd at all. None of this was strange, being able to communicate with them. But I also don't think I've told anybody that also there, during that same, or in that same space or area or dimension or frequency or whatever you want to call it, there were also what you would consider aliens that were coming and going. And I remember having conversations with them as well as to why they were there and what they were doing there and being on the earth. Again, none of this surprised me. There were beings that were humanoid esque, that stood bipedal and walked around. And then there were entities that were all different other kinds of looks. And although from a human perspective, I would have thought that they were scary, but in the moment, I didn't think that they were scary at all as we interacted. I knew what they were thinking. I knew where they were from. It was not that I was questioning why they were there. It was, how was their experience going? It's more like that. Because I knew what they were doing there. We interacted, and they knew who I was. And I got to thinking about that dimensionally. And I've told you guys that I call the third, the fourth, and the fifth dimensions, really use those terms more to be able to talk to you guys or other people, because I don't really see it that way. Because to me, they all merge into one. And I don't think I've given this analogy. I may have given it to a person, but I'm gonna do it again. But if you think of, and like, retired nurse here, so I'm going to use nursing or medical analogies frequently. But if you think of human brain being the all that is, okay? Well, think of the human brain being all that is. Now, you can look at a very small portion of that human brain through a microscope, and then you can think of like a spider looking at a human brain, the way they would look at it. Or another part of the human brain being looked at with an MRI machine. Okay, all of this brain, which is my analogy for all that is all in the now, and it's all at the time the same thing. It isn't anything different. You don't have to go anywhere to see that brain. It's just looking at the brain in different ways. And that's what the different dimensions are. Okay? So even though when I died and he was floating above my body, I was still interacting with beings that were around and interacting with what I've been calling the third dimension. But they really weren't in the third dimension as you think about it, but they were in the third dimension from everybody else's perspective, because they were interacting with the beings, the humans that were operating with their five senses in the third dimension. Okay? So they were still third dimensional beings. They weren't in what I would consider the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension. They were in the third dimension, but they were in the third dimension in a place that you can't see with your five human senses. So I just wanted y'all to know that there are a lot more things going on in the third and fourth dimension on this planet than you're aware of. And the reason why you're not aware of them is because you're looking at, back to my analogy of the human brain, you're looking at the human brain through a microscope at just this one little part of it. Okay? Whereas when I died and I was floating above my body, no longer was I working through the five human senses. I was open to many, many more senses. So I was able to see, back to the analogy, that part of the human brain, or that part of the all that is, through a different form, via a different form. Now, the way that you access these different areas is by the way you vibrate, right? And the way you vibrate is based on your belief systems. A lot as humans, they're based on the way you believe. So therefore, that's what you're seeing through. So you're seeing through the five senses, and because you can't see these alien beings, or you can't see the ghosts, then you don't know that they exist. But if you were opening it up to what they've said, sixth sense, and that's just one other sense, and there are a lot more. So there are all these other beings that are here interacting in 3D that have a whole different experience on Gaia that I don't think I've ever talked about, that I interact with them as well. And there are so many different layers and so many different beings that are doing so many different things and having so much experience here. So when I say that humans are not the most highly evolved beings on this planet, it's not just about the plants and the animals, the rocks, the wind, the elementals. It's about these other beings. Now, when I died and was in this particular place and interacting with these beings that were still living day to day right next to human beings, and I came out of that body and opened myself up to other senses so that I could interact with them, then I realized at that point that they were all here for their experience as well. And they operate under those same rules, the same law of attraction rules. So that was very, very interesting. And there was, it was really, they were the first ones and the easiest. The easiest for me to talk to, the fastest, the easiest were the human ghosts. Because a human ghost is not very far vibrationally from a live human as you think of them. Okay, there's not very much of a vibrational difference, which is why there's so many people who can pretty easily speak and telepathically interact with ghosts, is because there's not very much difference. It's pretty easy to learn to communicate with a dead person. It really is. Yeah. Okay, well, I just thought I'd share that. And I'm going to end this video, and then I'm going to continue on talking about this stuff about ghosts and these other aliens, and I'm going to put that on my Patreon channel. So if you'd like to see additional videos, then come and join us over in the Patreon department, because I found out I'm supposed to be giving Patreon people extra videos and talk to them specifically, and I want to thank them for their support, because it's lovely and I really appreciate it. So thanks for bearing with me, guys. As I work on my book, I'll probably be talking about some things that get triggered about that experience, and might bring you some more information that might be of interest. All right? I hope you guys are having a great day. It's a beautiful day here today. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you later. Huge hugs now. Bye.